California's water woes are actually far worse than even Donald Trump realizes. Hi, everybody. Brian Sussman here. Brian Sussman Show podcast. Thanks for joining me. Some of you are watching on YouTube or Rumble. Others are listening on the many audio platforms. A lot of what I'm going to share comes to you via an article that I posted at briansussman.com and on my Facebook page, Brian Sussman Show, describing California's water woes as being even worse than Donald Trump realizes. I saw Donald Trump on Sean Hannity's program last night. They were talking about California's water situation. Trump spoke in great detail. There was nothing he said that was inaccurate, but I don't believe Donald Trump understands even the half of it. What's happening in California in terms of water, one, has been going on for decades. The environmentalists are long suffering. You know, they may want 10 yards a shot, but if they only get one or two, they're happy with that because they keep moving forward. And this plan to destroy available water in California has been going on for decades. I've written about it extensively over the years. I wrote about it in ClimateGate, wrote about it further in Eco-Tyranny, and then touch on it again in my latest book, Climate Cult. And by the way, thank you so much for any or all of those books you may have purchased and read. I'm going to read you something right now, and if you could just excuse me, I'm going to reach over here. And I printed out the article. So I hope you don't mind me reading for just a moment. But this is from the 2012 book, Eco-Tyranny. So again, this is 13 years ago. But everything I predicted in that book has come to fruition. And the predictions were not, they weren't positive. It was all negative in terms of these plans by the environmental movement. Do you realize these people are insidious communists who have the Democrat Party in their back pocket to do whatever they damn please? You also have to realize, and I talk about this a lot in Climate Cult, you have to realize that Karl Marx was an environmentalist. Vladimir Lenin wrote, while people were starving to death in his country after he took it over, takes over Russia. It's his country. People are starving. They're being executed for crimes against the state. While all of this is taking place, he's writing lengthy papers on the environment. The first person to ever talk about global cooling was Karl Marx's writing partner. The bottom line is these people understand something, that they would be able to effectively use the environment to hammer capitalism. Because in their mind, capitalism is incompatible with the environment, period. No exceptions. So one of Karl Marx's direct disciples, a guy named Arthur Tainsley, actually coined the term ecosystem. He was a botanist. He was a communist. He coined the term ecosystem. He actually said something that was really sickening. He said this. Let me find this for you really quick. He said the destructive activities of the modern world, created by capitalism or brought forth by capitalism, could be crushed by employing ecology. Ecology, he said, must be applied to conditions brought about by human activity. To do this, he coined the term ecosystem. Ecosystem can describe anything from a pond to a puddle to an ocean. So he birthed this junk science philosophy that influences the modern environmental movement to this day, because to them, everything can be blamed on capitalism. Now, I'm going to talk about the water situation in California in just a moment. Governor Newsom put a nail in the coffin of the dams and reservoirs in the state of California. And in doing so, he created, and I'm going to explain this, he created the biggest environmental disaster in the United States of America ever. And nobody's talking about it. I'll get to that in just a moment. Let me read something from my 2012 book, Eco-Tyranny, 2012. It exposed at the time what the eco-freaks were up to. They've only become more conniving. But I said this, if we're to meet the fundamental needs for survival as a nation, again, this is 2012, especially as our population increases by 100 million residents by the year 2050, then we need significantly more water. And we need to begin expanding our water supplies right now. You know, building a dam takes a long time. Just the permit process alone in most states takes forever. We need more water for drinking, for farming, for ranching, for manufacturing. We need more dams. And by the way, the dams can also produce something called hydroelectricity, which you would think the environmentalists would like, but they hate. Emission-free electricity, they hate it because they don't want you to have cheap electricity. They want you to have expensive electricity so that you will use less. The problem is the environmentalists have determined to maintain a limited water supply as an effective tool to restrict development, devalue private property, and therefore better control our lives. They despise dams. They find reservoirs repugnant. In fact, they're using the same tactics to shut down dams and reservoirs that they use against big oil and nuclear power. Junk science, ad hominem arguments, throwing hissy fits to prevent new dams and reservoirs from being constructed. Worse yet, they're on a tear to deconstruct as many dams as reservoirs as possible in the name of restoring the environment. And thus far, they are winning the war. And that's why I'm so glad Trump's on this. While he's talking, it's amazing. Sean Hannity was trying to get him to talk about this and talk about that. He just kept going on this theme because friends, you can't live for more than 4 days without water. Some can, but generally speaking, in 4 days you're dead. We can't eat without water. California is the breadbasket of the world. I know that many states in the United States are very proud of their agricultural industry. For example, Wisconsin, the cheeseheads. Okay, they're just not the football fans, but they make a lot of cheese in Wisconsin. Guess what? California makes much more cheese than Wisconsin. Hollywood is not the biggest industry in California. Big tech is not the biggest industry in California. It's the farming and ranching industry. That's the big money winner in the state of California. And they need water. And the spigot's being turned off, always in the name of the environment. Because of something called social equity. You have to understand this. The radical environmentalists, like the communists, they're one and the same, believe in something called social equity. It has nothing to do with DEI or ESG. Social equity means you are no more important than a flea. You are no more important than a cypress tree. You are no more important than a weed. We're all on the same platform. Social equity. At the environmental level, we're all the same. Therefore, who are you to say that you need more water? You human being, you consumer, you're evil. That's what they think of us. That's what they think of us. So you have this guy named Arthur Tainsley, a direct disciple of Karl Marx, who coins the term ecosystem because he felt that the employment and study of ecosystems could thwart capitalism. Ecology, he said, must be applied to all conditions brought about by human activity. And to do this, he coined the term ecosystem. He was a communist. It's the junk science philosophy that drives the entire environmental movement. Now let's get back to California. Since 1980, in 1980, the population of California was 28 million. It's currently 50. It's currently 40 million. So we've seen the state of California grow a lot since 1980. And get ready for this. Since 1980, in the state of California, we have seen over 150 dams torn down. The last reservoir and dam system, New Maloney's, was finished in 1980. We haven't seen another one built since then. We've seen 150 torn down. Now, let me talk to you about the Trinity River Basin and the Klamath River Basin. These provide invaluable water and electricity to California's Great Valley, Sacramento Valley, San Joaquin Valley, in the middle of the state. That's where all the food's made. That's where all the ranching's done. The dams in question, the Trinity and Lewiston, were completed way back in 1963, creating one of the largest bodies of water in all of California. With 90% of Trinity River Basin's runoff able to be stored and diverted for use in other parts of the state. So this is way up in Northern California. It's a system that runs up and down the state. It delivers water into Southern California. And this is a very large state, very lengthy state as well. There's something called the Central Valley Water Project, the CVP. Through a brilliant series of dams, tunnels, canals, reservoirs, the CVP harnesses water from the Trinity and the Sacramento River and the San Joaquin River and irrigates farmland all over the Great Valley. It's ingenious. This was finished in 1963. And there are 9 power stations as well. However, the environmentalists have always hated these things because they want to retard development. They want to destroy agriculture. They want to reduce population growth in California. That fire in Southern California. How many people are never going to be able to rebuild? The environmentalists have wanted to turn a lot of that land that burned in Southern California back to nature. They hate those expensive homes overlooking the bluffs of the Pacific Ocean. And now they're all gone. However, for years, these environmentalists, as I mentioned, have been on a tear to get rid of water in California. They found a willing player. He was tricked. Ronald Reagan signed the first worst bill. He was tricked. It was a bill put together in 1984. The Democratic-led House and the moderate Senate sent a bill to President Reagan, $35 million to restore fish and wildlife and save the salmon along a 112-mile stretch of the Trinity River in Northern California. It was called the Trinity River Basin Fish and Wildlife Restoration Act. The act decreased the amount of water supplied to the Central Valley Water Project from 90% of the basin's runoff to 75%. Ronald Reagan was sold a bill of goods. He was told, hey, we're gonna take care of the salmon. It's going to be great. We can do this. Ronald Reagan, of course, my state, salmon fishing, that's fantastic. I love to salmon fish. He signed the bill. He did not know. He didn't read the fine print. This was going to be used not to protect the salmon, to cut off water to the farmers. But it gets even worse. Next came the Clinton-Gore White House. They had an interior secretary named Bruce Babbitt. He looked at California's dams. He called it the sledgehammer tour. He actually toured California's dams, especially those on the Trinity and those on the Klamath. He toured California's dams literally carrying a sledgehammer, making it clear he wanted to tear those dams down. In a 1998 speech, he said this, and he said this speech to the Ecology Society of America. America overshot the mark in our dam building frenzy. For most of this century, politicians have eagerly rushed in amidst cheering crowds to claim credit for the construction of 75,000 dams all across America. Think about that number, he said. That means we've been building on average one large dam a day every day since the Declaration of Independence. It's called progress. It's called humanity. It's called love thy neighbor. That's why we do this kind of stuff. It's good for everybody. But you know what? These damned environmentalists have never seen a human being they didn't hate. They hate them. They can't stand humanity. They want less. They come up with these figures. Well, I think, I don't know, we have all these billions, and they say, well, I think an optimum number would be about 500 million people on the planet. How are you going to get there? What are you going to do what are you going to do to accomplish that? They'll never tell you. But that's what they're hoping for. It's going to be a nuclear war, fires, bombs, calamity, disease. What is it? They'll never tell you. So in comes Babbitt. Babbitt starts to reduce the amount of water in the Central Valley Plan to 52%. So we go from 90% to 75% to 52%, and his goal was to only allow for 25% of what comes out of the Trinity River and the Klamath River, only 25% for agriculture. 90% initially was being used at the end of the day. He wanted to get it down to 25%. So guess who finally accomplished this task? Governor Newsom, 2019. A year before, plans to destroy the Klamath River dam system were released by American Rivers. Oh, what a wonderful name, American Rivers. A radical nonprofit group claimed up to 85% of the dams in the United States of America are unnecessary, harmful, or dangerous. So what they wanted to do, and what Gavin Newsom has allowed them to accomplish, is remove 7 dams built over 100 years ago, beautiful feats of engineering, to save the salmon. We're going to save the salmon. There's another fish that they've been trying to save, the Delta smelt. About that big. It's a piece of crap. You can't eat it. But because all species are equal, we were able to shut down a lot of water flowing into the Central Valley, and a lot of farms were shut down in the process. So here we have 7 dams built over 100 years ago, saving the salmon. $250 million of the money required to tear down these dams was provided by a water bond approved by the voters in California in 2015. This money was used to drain the reservoirs, even though the initiative in 2015 said the water was to be the money was to be used to increase the supply of safe, clean, reliable water and restore habitat. So we, the people of California, said, yeah, $250 million, sure. For safe water, clean water? Yes, absolutely. No, the money was used to tear down dams. Oh, but wait, there's more. You've got to stick around to the end of this. So, the dams were torn down. And water from the Klamath began to just flow freely, unplugged, in early 2024. And the result has been the biggest environmental disaster in the state of California's history, and certainly one of the biggest environmental disasters in the history of the United States of America. The Klamath River dams were unplugged, allowing millions of tons of polluted sediments formerly deposited on the lake bottoms to spew forth, killing virtually all life in the Klamath River. Nobody wants to talk about it. Go online, look at the pictures for yourself. It's horrible. You see, those lakes, you know, you had the dam and then you have the reservoir, that's a lake. Those lakes were used for recreation. And of course, that includes boats. And yes, the boats run on the lake, and there is, obviously oil that sinks to the bottom of the lake. And that and any other pollutants on the bottom of the lake remain there. They won't hurt anybody. They're not going anywhere. They'll stay there forever. It won't bother anybody. It doesn't pollute the rest of the lake. They're all on the bottom, seeping down, where eventually processes within the crust of the earth will allow them to be, cleaned up. But when we unplugged those reservoirs, or when he unplugged those reservoirs, Governor Newsom, all of this muck, all of this crap, all of this filth, all of this pollution began to spew down the river, literally killing everything in sight. Plants, animals, killed all the salmon. The salmon they were supposed to protect, killed them all. A deadly cocktail for all forms of life. The very idiots who claimed the salmon were endangered virtually killed all the salmon in the Klamath River. So I applaud Donald Trump moving in the right direction, no question about it. Eco-tyranny is ruining California and too many other states. But finally, we have a White House administration that sees this as a major plank to make America great again. I'm sorry I'm so wound up on this, but these idiots, there's been a phase shift in America and the world right now. I think we were on our way to be doomed prior to this election. But things are turning around. People are seeing the light of day. It's as if the scales have been pulled off their eyes. It is a beautiful thing, and I thank God for it. Every day so far, I've been thanking God for it. It's amazing. And I pray that my Christian brothers and sisters take advantage of this opportunity to speak the truth in love and share the good news that Jesus is Lord. But in the meantime, I thank you for your participation in this podcast, and I look forward to our next meeting. Again, more on me at briansussman.com. God bless you, my friends.